They said no one ever saw her smile after her husband died. The villagers called her the Silent Widow, a woman wrapped in white saris and silence, living on the edge of the forest where the winds whispered secrets no one dared to hear. Every evening, she sat near her broken window, staring at the sunset like she was waiting for someone who'd never return. Her name was Mira. Life had drained out of her eyes long ago when her husband drowned in the river while saving a stranger's child. Since then, she spoke to no one, ate little, and worked in the nearby temple just to survive. Her house was surrounded by trees so dense that sunlight barely reached the ground. People often said wild monkeys came close to her hut at night, drawn by the smell of the fruits she left outside. But no one knew why she left them. Some whispered she was mad. Some said she believed the monkeys were her husband's spirit watching over her. The truth was simpler and sadder. She left food for them because loneliness was heavier than hunger. One stormy evening, while she was gathering water near the edge of the jungle, she heard a faint cry. It wasn't human. It was softer, trembling, like a baby calling for help. Her heart skipped. She followed the sound through the tall, wet grass until she saw it. A tiny monkey baby lying beside a dead female monkey, probably hit by hunters' traps. Its small hands shivered, its breath weak, eyes barely open. Mira looked around. No one was there. Rain poured heavily, lightning flashed through the forest. For a long moment she just stood there, watching that helpless creature, torn between fear and pity. Then something broke inside her. She lifted the trembling baby in her arms, covered it with her shawl, and ran back home through the storm. That night, for the first time in years, her heart beat faster, not because of fear, but because she had someone to save. As thunder rolled outside, she wrapped the tiny creature in old clothes, gave it milk with a spoon, and whispered softly, "You're safe now. Don't cry." The monkey opened its eyes slowly and clung to her finger. Mira froze. Something warm filled her eyes. She hadn't felt that touch, that trust, since she lost her husband. By morning, the storm had passed, and a strange calm filled her home. The monkey slept near her pillow, breathing softly. Mira sat beside it for hours, watching, smiling without realizing she was smiling. When villagers came to ask if she was safe, she said nothing about the monkey. She simply nodded. That night, she whispered a prayer she hadn't said in years. "If this is madness, then let me stay mad." But in that silence, far away, the forest was already watching her, and not everything watching was kind. Mira's house slowly changed. The once empty room now echoed with soft giggles, tiny footsteps, and the sound of little hands clapping against metal pots. The baby monkey, whom she began calling Chintu, had become the center of her life. He followed her everywhere, to the well, to the temple, even to the small patch of land where she grew vegetables. When she prayed, he sat quietly beside her, tilting his head like he understood her pain. The villagers started noticing her again. They saw her carrying the monkey wrapped in cloth like a human baby, feeding it milk, singing lullabies under her breath. Some pitied her, some laughed, and some whispered that she had lost her mind completely. "A widow feeding a wild creature," they said. "Maybe loneliness has eaten her soul." But Mira didn't care. For the first time in years, her heart had a reason to beat. Each morning she would wash Chintu, comb his fur gently, and talk to him as if he were her own child. At night, she'd light a lamp near her husband's photo and whisper, "You sent him to me, didn't you?" But life, as always, had its own cruel timing. One afternoon, when Mira was at the temple cleaning the floor, the head priest saw the monkey sitting outside waiting for her. He frowned. "This is not a place for animals," he said sharply. Mira begged, "He's like my child. Please let him stay until I finish my work." The priest's voice rose. "A widow should not bring disgrace by treating a beast as her son." Everyone stared. Some villagers smirked. Mira's eyes filled with tears, but she said nothing. That night, she sat by the river with Chintu in her lap, whispering, "They don't understand us, my child. Humans forget kindness easily." The moonlight reflected in her eyes as Chintu pressed his face against her chest. A strange peace surrounded them, until she heard a rustle behind her. She turned quickly. 3 boys from the village stood there with sticks, laughing. "Look at her," one said. "Mother of a monkey, should we bow to her?" Another added cruelly, "Maybe the monkey is her husband reborn." The boys laughed louder. Mira's hands trembled. Chintu clung tightly to her. When one of them stepped forward to pull the monkey, Mira screamed, "Don't you dare!" Her voice echoed across the dark riverbank. The boys froze, startled by the ferocity in her tone. "Leave him!" she cried again, shielding the baby with her body. For a moment they hesitated, then walked away muttering insults. When they disappeared, Mira sat shaking, tears mixing with the river water. She looked at the monkey and whispered, "You're all I have left. I'll never let anyone hurt you." From that night, she stopped going to the temple. The villagers noticed her isolation growing deeper. Rumors spread that she performed strange rituals, that the monkey had bewitched her, that she had lost her sanity completely. Children were told not to go near her hut. But deep in that silence, something beautiful was growing, a bond so pure that it blurred the line between human and animal. Chintu began mimicking her, folding hands when she prayed, bringing her flowers, even touching her face gently when she cried. And Mira, who once feared the nights, now sat under the stars whispering stories to him. Yet, while she found peace, darkness was approaching. One day when she went to the market, she overheard the village council talking. "This cannot go on. That widow is becoming a bad example. She must get rid of that creature or leave the village." Mira's heart stopped. Her hands trembled as she walked home, clutching her bag. That night she couldn't sleep. The thought of losing Chintu tore her apart. She looked at him sleeping peacefully and whispered, "If they try to take you, I'll go far away, beyond these people, beyond their cruelty." And somewhere outside, the wind carried her words into the dark forest, as if warning the trees that something was about to change. The next morning, Mira woke up before sunrise. The village was still quiet, the air heavy with mist, and the forest beyond her house looked darker than usual. She packed a small bag of rice, a blanket, and the old photograph of her husband, placing them beside the door. She didn't know where she would go, but she knew she couldn't stay any longer. Chintu was still asleep, curled up against her chest, his tiny fingers clutching her sari as though he sensed her fear. Mira brushed his fur gently and whispered, "We'll find a new home, my child. Somewhere they won't call you a sin." Her words trembled, but before she could move, a loud knock shook her door. "Open up, Mira!" a man's voice demanded. It was Raghav, the head of the village council, and 2 others stood behind him. "You have been warned," he said coldly when she opened the door. "We can't allow this unnatural bond to continue. The temple priest has spoken. Either you give up the animal, or you leave by tomorrow morning." Mira's lips trembled. "He's not an animal. He's a child. He's my child." Raghav's expression hardened. "Then leave. Before the sun rises tomorrow, your hut must be empty." They walked away, their shadows stretching long across the dirt road. Mira closed the door and collapsed to the floor, her body shaking. Chintu jumped onto her shoulder, wiping her tears with his tiny hands. That single touch reminded her of everything she had lost, and everything she couldn't lose again. As the sun set that evening, she took Chintu into her arms and began walking toward the forest. The village dogs barked as she passed, and someone shouted, "The mad widow is leaving with her beast!" But she didn't turn back. Her bare feet bled against the stones, yet she kept walking, deeper and deeper, until the houses disappeared and only the forest remained. Crickets chirped, owls cried, and somewhere far away thunder rolled over the hills. She found an abandoned shrine near a large banyan tree and decided to stay there for the night. Lighting a small fire, she warmed her hands and looked at Chintu. "This is our home now," she whispered. "The forest won't judge us." For a while, there was peace. Days passed. She built a small shelter beside the shrine, gathered fruits, fetched water from a nearby stream, and lived quietly. The forest animals grew familiar with her presence. Deer grazed near her hut, birds landed close without fear, and Chintu would play among them like one of their own. Mira felt free, like the forest had accepted her in a way humans never could. But one night, while she was feeding Chintu, she heard distant voices. Men's voices. Torches flickered through the trees. Her heart pounded. She blew out her small fire and hid behind the shrine, clutching Chintu close. The men came closer, laughing and talking. "We'll find her tonight," one of them said. "Raghav said she took the temple offerings before running away." Another chuckled. "Maybe that monkey guards the gold now." Mira froze. They were spreading lies to hunt her down. One man shone his torch toward the shrine, and for a moment their eyes met. "There! I saw something move!" he shouted. Mira panicked. She ran deeper into the forest, branches slashing her arms, feet slipping in the mud. Chintu clung tightly as she gasped for breath. The men followed, their torches swinging wildly. "Catch her!" someone yelled. But the forest was on her side. She knew the paths now, knew where the stones lay, where the river turned sharp. She crossed a fallen log and ducked behind thick roots. After what felt like hours, the voices faded. Silence returned, except for her heavy breathing and the beating of her heart. When she finally looked at Chintu, she realized he was trembling. She kissed his forehead and whispered, "It's over. I won't let them find us again." But she was wrong. That chase marked the beginning of something darker. Because what she didn't know was that the men had seen enough to spread more rumors. By morning, the entire village believed the widow had joined the spirits of the forest, that she was no longer human. And while she fought to protect her only child, the world outside was preparing to destroy her name forever. Days turned into weeks, and Mira's disappearance became a story whispered in every corner of the village. Children were told not to go near the forest, and elders muttered prayers whenever they passed the old path leading to the shrine. Some said Mira had gone mad and been taken by the jungle spirits. Others swore they had seen her walking under the moonlight, carrying a child covered in fur. But none dared to find out the truth, and except one man. His name was Hari, a hunter who lived on the edge of the village. He had lost his wife years ago, and something in Mira's story bothered him deeply. "She's just a lonely woman," he told the council one morning. "Let her live." But Raghav, the head, frowned. "We can't have a cursed woman living so close to us. She brings bad luck. The crops are dying, the rains are late. All because of her sins. Find her, end this madness." Hari hesitated. He didn't believe in curses, but he needed the money Raghav offered, 5 silver coins. That night, with his lantern and bow, Hari entered the forest. The air was thick and still, filled with the distant cries of birds settling to sleep. The deeper he went, the colder it became. Hours passed, and just when he thought of turning back, he saw it, a faint glow near the banyan tree. He crept closer and froze. There she was, sitting by the fire, her face calm, the baby monkey asleep in her lap. For a long time he didn't move. Mira's lips were moving, whispering something, a prayer perhaps. Her hair had grown long and silver, and her white sari looked like mist in the moonlight. Hari lowered his weapon. Something about her presence silenced him. He watched as she gently fed the monkey bits of fruit, smiled softly, and hummed a lullaby. It wasn't madness, it was love. The kind that had no words, no logic, but pure heart. But before Hari could leave quietly, a twig snapped under his foot. Mira turned sharply. Their eyes met. For a moment, fear flashed in hers. then recognition. "Why have you come?" she asked in a trembling voice. Harry stepped forward slowly. "Don't be afraid. I mean no harm." "They sent you, didn't they?" Her voice broke. "To take him from me?" "No," Harry said gently. "I only wanted to see the truth. The village. They've turned cruel." Mira's eyes softened, but tears filled them. "They call him sin. But tell me, what sin is it to love something that depends on you?" Harry had no answer. He sat down, keeping his distance. For hours they spoke, about pain, about loss, about how people fear what they don't understand. When dawn approached, Mira said softly, "Please tell them I'm gone. Tell them they'll never see me again. I just want peace." Hari nodded. He looked at Chintu, who was awake now, watching him curiously. Something about the tiny creature's eyes made his heart ache. Innocence, trust, life itself. He stood, nodded to Mira once more, and walked away. When he returned to the village, he told Raghav, "She's dead." Raghav raised an eyebrow. "You're sure?" "Yes," Hari said firmly. "I found her clothes near the river." "She's gone," Raghav smirked. "Good. The curse is lifted then." And life went on. Or so they thought. Months passed, and the rains returned, the crops grew, and the village began to forget her name. But one night, Hari heard a sound outside his hut. Soft footsteps, almost human. He opened the door slowly. In the dim light, he saw a small figure near the trees. It was the monkey. Grown bigger now, but unmistakable. Chintu. He held something in his hand, a silver anklet. Mira's anklet. Harry's breath caught. "Where is she?" he whispered. But Chintu only looked at him for a moment before vanishing back into the forest. That night, Hari couldn't sleep. The image of the widowed woman's eyes haunted him, calm, forgiving, yet endless. The next morning, he packed food and followed the same path again, back into the woods. What he found there would change the story forever. Hari followed the narrow trail into the forest as the morning fog swirled around him like white smoke. The deeper he went, the stronger the sense of unease grew. Birds watched silently from branches, and the usual forest chatter seemed to have vanished. It felt as though every leaf and shadow knew what he was about to discover. He carried only his knife and a small lantern, the dim light trembling with each step. As he neared the old banyan tree, he noticed something strange. Fresh fruits neatly placed near the shrine, still wet with dew. Someone had been here recently. He called softly, "Mira?" There was no answer, only the faint rustling of wind through dry leaves. Then from behind the shrine came a low, broken sound, half sob, half growl. "Hari Fros." Slowly he stepped closer and peered around the stone pillar. What he saw made him drop the lantern. Mira was there, or what was left of her. Her frail body rested against the roots of the tree, her eyes closed, her hands folded across her chest as if in prayer. But she wasn't alone. Chintu sat beside her lifeless body, holding her hand tightly, rocking back and forth and making small sounds of grief. His fur was dirty, his eyes swollen from crying. Hari's heart clenched. He knelt beside her, tears filling his eyes. "You didn't deserve this," he whispered. "You only wanted love." He placed his hand gently on her forehead. It was cold, peaceful. She had died quietly, perhaps days ago. There was no sign of struggle, no violence, no fear, just stillness. But then Hari noticed something else. In Mira's lap, wrapped in a piece of her white sari, lay a small note. The ink had faded, but the words were clear enough to break a man's heart. "If love makes me cursed, then let me die with it. Tell them I was not mad. Tell them I was a mother." Hari's tears fell onto the paper. He looked at Chintu, who was now clinging to Mira's shoulder, whimpering softly. He realized the little creature had not eaten, not moved, just stayed beside her until she was gone. That kind of loyalty was something few humans possessed. As the sun rose, Hari dug a small grave beside the shrine. He wrapped Mira's body gently in her shawl, placed the anklet she had lost beside her, and whispered a prayer before covering her with earth. Chintu watched quietly, his eyes never leaving her face until the last handful of soil fell. Then, as if understanding, he climbed onto the mound, pressed his tiny hands into it, and made a sound so heart-wrenching that even the forest fell silent. Harry stayed there until sunset. Before leaving, he looked at Chintu one last time and said, "I'll come back for you. You're not alone." But as he turned away, something strange happened. The wind shifted, and for a moment, Harry swore he heard Mira's voice, a soft whisper carried through the trees. "He's my child now. He'll never be alone." The air grew colder, and the leaves rustled like hands clapping in farewell. Harry shivered but didn't look back. He returned to the village that night, pale and shaken. He didn't tell anyone what he had found. He knew they wouldn't understand. But the story didn't end there. In the weeks that followed, villagers began reporting strange things. Offerings left at the temple would disappear overnight, replaced by wildflowers. Children who wandered too close to the forest said they saw a woman in white sitting under the banyan tree, humming a lullaby with a monkey curled up in her lap. The priest tried to bless the forest and drive away the spirit, but every time he approached, his torches went out, and the wind howled louder. Some said it was Mira's soul guarding her child. Others believed she had become one with the forest itself. Only Hari knew the truth. Sometimes, late at night, he would sit near his window and see glowing eyes watching him from the trees. Not threatening, just watching. He would whisper, "He's safe, Mira. I kept my promise." And the eyes would blink once before disappearing into the darkness. What no one knew was that Mira's love had not died. It had transformed. The monkey grew stronger, wiser, and more human in its behavior, almost as if her soul had passed into him. The villagers feared him, called him cursed, but Hari knew better. He knew that in a world that had forgotten kindness, a widow's heart had found a way to keep love alive, even beyond death. Years passed, and the story of the widow and her strange child faded into a local legend. Children grew up hearing it as a bedtime tale, a warning told to stop them from wandering too far into the woods. "Don't go near the banyan tree after dark," parents would whisper. "The spirit of the widow guards her monkey child there." But Hari, now old and weak, knew the truth behind the tale. Every year, on the same day Mira had died, he would walk into the forest carrying fruits and flowers, and every time he would find them gone by morning, replaced by fresh white petals scattered on the shrine, like someone had quietly said thank you. But one year, as Hari grew sick and felt his end near, he decided to visit the forest one last time. The path had changed, wilder, thicker, yet somehow familiar. When he reached the old shrine, the sight waiting for him made him stop in awe. A grown monkey sat beside the banyan tree, taller now, stronger, with eyes almost human in depth. In front of him sat 3 smaller monkeys, his own children. Chintu had become a father, and beside him, on the shrine's stone, lay Mira's old anklet, polished by time but shining as if new. Hari's eyes filled with tears. "You kept her memory alive," he whispered. Chintu turned his head, and for a long moment their eyes met, man and beast, both carrying the same silent grief. Then, in a gesture that broke Hari's heart, Chintu picked up the anklet and placed it at Hari's feet before bowing his head. Hari fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "She loved you more than life itself," he said, "and you loved her beyond death." The forest wind blew softly through the leaves, and for a moment it felt as though the air itself carried Mira's voice. Gentle, forgiving, eternal. Love has no shape, no boundaries. Hari stayed there for hours, whispering prayers. As dusk fell, he looked around one last time and said, "Rest now, Mira. The world finally remembers." When he left the forest, he didn't look back, because in his heart, he knew she wasn't gone. After Hari's death, the villagers began noticing changes near the banyan tree. Hunters who entered the forest never returned. But children who were lost and cried for help were always found asleep near the shrine, unharmed, with fresh fruit beside them. Once, a traveler claimed he saw a woman in white walking with a group of monkeys at dawn, her hand resting gently on one of their heads. He said her eyes looked human, full of peace. The story spread, and slowly, people stopped fearing the forest. They started leaving offerings not out of fear, but respect. Over the years, the village became greener, the harvest richer, the air calmer. Some said it was a coincidence. Others knew it was Mira's blessing, a reward for finally learning compassion. And yet, not everyone understood. Decades later, when new people moved into the village, a group of men decided to cut down the banyan tree to build a road. The villagers warned them, "Don't touch that tree, it's sacred," but they laughed and ignored it. The next morning, when they returned with axes, they found their tools rusted overnight and their truck's engine dead. The air around the tree smelled like sandalwood, and in the bark, someone had carved 3 words. No one knew how or when. Mother still here. The villagers took it as a sign and built a small shrine there, calling it Ma Van Devi, the mother of the forest. Women who couldn't conceive would come to pray there, and many later claimed they were blessed with children. The legend grew, passed from one generation to another, that once there lived a widow who defied society, who chose love over shame, who became a mother not by blood, but by heart, and that her spirit still protected those who were lonely, abandoned, or unloved. Even now, when the wind blows through the trees at night, villagers say they hear 2 sounds, a woman's soft humming, and the playful chatter of a monkey echoing through the leaves. And if you ever go deep enough into that forest, near the banyan tree, you might still find a tiny handprint on the old stone shrine. Not human, not fully animal. A reminder that love doesn't die. It transforms. Because in the end, Mira's story was never about madness or sin. It was about the kind of love the world forgets, a love that doesn't ask who deserves it, a love that simply gives. And though centuries may pass, her legend remains alive in the whispers of the forest. Proof that even in the cruelest hearts of men, kindness can still be reborn. Moral: love isn't defined by blood, species, or society's approval. Real love, pure, selfless, and unconditional, is what makes us human. And sometimes it takes a widow and a monkey to remind the world what humanity truly means.